If you are a builder who is constantly getting bid out, you're chasing leads, you're lowering your price, you're dealing with clients who just don't see your value, they second guess everything. It's not because you're too expensive, it's because you're too generic. And I know that might sound harsh off the bat, but just let that sink in for a minute. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rodric Lenhart. I was in real estate development and construction in the Carolinas for about 20 years. Did around $100 million in sales, just a little over, before selling that business in 2022. Then I wrote a book, $1 Million Flip Flops, which became a bestseller. Kind of cool. Went to Brown for my ICF as a professional coach, and now I help builders reclaim their time, sanity, and profits. So that is probably why you're on this page. And what I see over and over again, and it can be builders doing 2 million, it can be builders doing 20 million. Every week I talk to 20 or so clients, and I talk to 20 or so strangers on the street during 20-minute blueprint calls. But what I get is a really deep dive into their businesses. I look at a lot of builder websites, and here's the thing. When you get clear on your niche, everything gets easier. Sales get easier. Clients come pre-sold. You don't hear, you're too expensive, I'm going to get a couple other bids. They're waiting in line for you. Profit margins go up. Everything gets easier when you work with this document. And that's why I created it. Most builders think they're going to lose opportunities if they niche down. And this isn't just builders. This is every industry. It's coaching, it's restaurants, it doesn't matter what it is. You think you're going to exclude some of the market. But what you have to understand, and what I had to learn along with everybody else, is that there is so much noise out there. When somebody's at a party and someone says, hey, I'm buying a lot, I think about building a house, you want to come to mind, right? And if you're not speaking to a very specific customer that has one specific problem, you build one type of thing, you might be lumped in with 20 other builders. And when you try to be the builder for everyone, you blend in. And that's the problem that we're trying to solve. That's why I created this document for you. So look at Rolex, look at Tesla, if they're not on fire right now, or the best builder in your area that's always booked out. I'm going to give you a bunch of examples of why this works, and then we're going to dig into the document. And I'm going to show you one I did yesterday for a builder in Raleigh, so you can see a real world example of what this looks like. But first, let me give you a couple examples. Let's say there's a day planner. I know those are kind of ancient now, but and you go to Walmart, and I'm just selling you a day planner. What's that worth? $10, $20? Now, let's say it's a day planner for builders. Maybe it's worth $50. It's got things specific for you in there. Now, let's say it's a day planner for builders under 5 million who live in Omaha. Might be worth $500. I don't know what it is to you, but it's very specific to you. And if someone you hear across the room, hey, I've got a planner, you might not listen. If you're a builder in Omaha under 5 million and you hear somebody say, hey, I'm selling planners for builders in Omaha under 5 million, your ears perk up. That's what we want from your customers. We want them to think of you when a specific phrase is uttered. That's what we're after here. And we'll get into the document, and I'm going to give you a couple more examples, but this work it's paramount to your success. It makes your website copy easier. It makes marketing materials easier. If you're out doing lunch and learns or realtor engagements, or you're speaking with an architect, whatever you're doing for outflow in your business, we'll talk about why you shouldn't be relying on referrals in another video. Referrals is not a marketing plan, but it makes all of those things super simple. And take the example of a doctor. If you are a general doctor, you might make a couple $100,000 a year. If you're a foot doctor, you might make $500,000 a year. If you're a foot doctor that works on high performance athletes, you might make $5 million a year. It's a very specific thing. A high performance athlete is not going on Google going foot doctor. They're finding out who is the person who's suited to me. Exact same example. Look at me as a coach. I have 20 years of experience in building, but I've also had a dozen other businesses. I've had multiple exits. I've been through everything you've been through. There's not a problem you can come to me with that I haven't solved already. And I also went to Brown. I have an Ivy League education as a coach. I didn't just call myself a coach. I'm a literal certified professional coach. I've been to 65 countries. I have a very different outlook on things. And if that resonates with you, why my tagline is reclaim your time, sanity, and profits, is because I built a building business that, again, did almost $100 million in sales. And I traveled to 65 countries. And the question I constantly got, and this was 15 years ago it started, is, bro, how do you do it? How's your business thriving? You're not even here. And I know you listening to this right now, that may sound like an impossibility to you. You're working 80 hours a week. You have 70 unread text messages. You're the bottleneck in the business. That's what I work with builders on. Go back to my building career. I wasn't just a builder. I specifically worked on really complex historic projects. I was a member of the Historic District Commission in Charlotte for 5 years, an appointed member. So if you're going to build a historic project in Charlotte, I lived in a historic home. If you're going to build a historic project in Charlotte, are you going to go with the guy who's on the board that approves the project, that lives in the neighborhood, that does these all day? Or are you going to go with a builder that builds high quality custom homes? We use the best subs. We have the best materials. That's every builder's website. Nobody cares. You have to be very specific about the thing. That's what this document's going to help you achieve. And if you send me, this is for the first 10 people, by the way, I'm not going to do 1,000 of these, but if you send me your document when it's completed, I will give you, and I'll show you an example of what this looks like in my world. I will give you a 10 to 20 page document that's going to get you inside the mind of your buyer. Imagine being able to read the mind of your prospect. That's what this document does, and I'll show you an example of that. So, it's a step-by-step workbook, and it's about where your most profitable clients are, what makes your process different. Even if you don't see it, it helps pull that out, and how to tell your story so that people wait in line, so that they're not just waiting for the next bidder that's $10,000 less than you. You will not compete on price. You will rarely compete on price when you do this work. So it's really what helps you go from chaos to clarity in your business. And I know I'm rambling here, but I just wanted you to get the gist of why we're doing this work. So, I want you to go from competing on price to commanding a price, and people will wait for that service. Doesn't that sound great? So I want to get into the document, but let me first show you, I'm going to share my screen here with you. Some of the work that I do with other builders, and see if my iPad will work here. But, the first thing we do is a time study. And this is an actual client from last week or yesterday, yesterday. And we did a 2-week time study, and I broke down where he's spending all of his time on the job. Now, this is a $4 or $5 million business right now. He hired me because he wants to scale to 15 million. That's doable. It's very possible for him. But look right here, strategic planning, running errands, job site. Look what he's doing here. Admin, office work, project management. Shouldn't be doing any of those things. Driving. He spent like 2.5 hours a day driving. And the reason I share that with you is you need time to be able to work on these things. And that's what we call the time freedom ladder. Now, if you're looking at this document going, how am I going to squeeze in the time to do this, Rodric? Well, that's what we work on here. And this is my friend Dan Martell. He was in a coaching group with me. You may have heard of him. He wrote the book, Buy Back Your Time. But we want to solve for these things first. So admin, that's calls, that's your calendar, that's emails being routed. It's all the things that are soaking up your day. On the admin side, bookkeeping, submitting for permits, submitting for power. All the admin things that you're doing. You didn't build this business to be an admin, right? Then it's delivery, it's ops, it's project managers, it's a designer. Once we solve for those, and these should be the first things we focus on. They're definitely the first things we'll focus on if we work together. Now it's marketing. So this is sales. And the marketing, this is the work you're doing right here, is marketing work. And then eventually you can hire out management and ultimately yourself. And that's what gives you a business that is either saleable or gets you all of your time back so that you can do what you want, when you want, with who you want. And that's the goal for all of us, right? So if you don't have time to do this, let's have another conversation. You can hop on a 20-minute blueprint call. I do them for free. There's a handful available every week. There's nothing to buy on that call. And we'll dive into your business. We'll come up with a great plan. What does that plan look like when we start working together? This is Actual Builder. Again, this is the same one that I did the time study for. It is, you will always know your next right move when you're working with me. So 0 to 90 days. I update this every week. Some of this may sound familiar to you. I want to work 8 to 5. My kids come first. I'm spending all my time. Permitting is the biggest pain in my ass. I hate paying my bookkeeper. You get it. So we come up with an action plan. We come up with the roadblocks, the reasons that there's a lot of mindset involved in this as well. as a builder, as any entrepreneur, you're by yourself a lot. A lot of people, when we have our first conversation, I don't want to say all of them come to tears, but some of them do because, big tough guys, because they finally have somebody that understands their language, that understands what they're doing out there in their truck all day. Their wife doesn't get it. Their friends don't get it. The literal weight of the world falls on you every day. And often you don't have somebody to talk about it with that understands what you're doing. So you'll always know, I update this every 2 weeks for my guys. So when you're like, man, what do I work on next? You've got it in front of you. All right. So let's dive into the document. I want to show you, actually, let me show you a finished one. So this is actually for me. This is why you are listening to this right now, is because I did this work. And what are your challenges? What are your mindsets? What are your relationships? When you send me your completed document, this is what I will give you back. I have a software program I've developed after working with hundreds of builders that will give you this on a platter. And for the first 10 people, it's free. But, what's your USP? What are the ongoing questions in your head? What are the one-liners you can use when you're talking to somebody at a meeting? Lead magnets, what are things you can give away so you have clients coming in the door? Who are you? Think about, what do you love? This is you. This is the builders out there. What do you hate? Regulatory hurdles, unpredicted delays, budget overruns. What are your biggest pain points and fears? What do you want from your business? Sustainability, a great reputation, profitability. What do you want from your life? Work-life balance, a legacy, personal fulfillment. Do you see how I'm kind of getting inside your head here? It's an average, but I'm guessing some of this resonates. What's the typical age range, peak age range? What's your demographic details? What's your education, your socioeconomic status, your personal background, your lifestyle? What taglines can you use that you can put on your website? This is what I will give you back. So I wanted to go through that so you can see what kind of the value add. Typically, that's just reserved for my one-on-one clients, but I'm offering it for free for the first 10 people that respond to this with your completed thing. So let's go through this document really fast. So it's kind of self-explanatory. You should be able to just go through this one by one. If you have any questions, email me. Even better, book in a 20 and we'll talk about it, or get started and then book in a 20 and we'll talk about it. Again, 20s are completely free. It's my gift to humanity. There's nothing to buy on those calls. If you know anything about me, I do this because I love it, not because I have to. I'm at the Mountain House in Virginia right now recording this for you. I sold my business and I don't really have to do anything. So this really is a labor of love, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So don't hesitate to book a call. It's zero pressure. It's just a conversation. So as you're working through this, what's your USPs? You're not competing with other builders. You're competing with perception. That is huge. What are the things in your business? You have an in-house designer? Do you have a client portal? What's your post-construction concierge service? I had a 5-year warranty on my jobs. That was a game changer. Nobody in my industry offered a 5-year warranty, but I knew that 3 years later, if Mrs. Smith called, I'm going to take care of her. You probably will too, or you wouldn't still be in business. Make that a thing. Have a 2 or 3 year warranty. There's a ton of these options out there that make you a sea of one. That's what we're after, where no other builder competes with you. Everyone says, quality craftsmanship, quality materials, on-time delivery, we build the house of your dreams. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And there's a whole other video I have where we talk about how you make a client feel on your website. That's what we're always after. How are they going to feel through the process? I also have another document called the Homeowner's Emotional Roller Coaster that will save you tons of time. If you want that, just email me roller coaster. I'll send it to you. So once we have these USPs, and they're different for everybody, these are just examples, we put them into a client benefit. You're asking for every USP. This means the client, and we're back to how are you going to make them feel? So if you have a great portal and you have weekly meetings or you have some unique update process, well, how does that make them feel? It makes them feel in the loop. It makes them feel in control. It makes them feel like they know what's going on with their house and this, big chunk of money that they're spending. So we're doing that for each of your USPs. Then we reverse engineer your people. And this one's huge. Who pays you the most for what you do best? I want to dial in on this for a second. There are homes you love to build. There are homes that are super profitable, and there are homes that the client wants. This is like a modified genius model, but we will do this work together. If we ever work one-on-one, we want to be right here. What do you love to build? What makes you the most money? And what do people want? If we can do more of that, you're happier, they're happier, you're more profitable. Stories for another day. Power buyer patterns. This is a big one. And we're going to list your best 5 clients of all time. So you can go through all this on your own. Again, if you get stuck, message me. I'll help you. The more of these you can do, the better. This is the most important part of this work. Once you work through the USPs, look how detailed this is. Where are they from? Where did they come? Why did they buy? What was their biggest fear? What were the questions they asked? Why did they say yes? Why were they a great client? That's a big one. You see red flags all day, and there's reasons that we take red flag customers. Cash flow, typically, another thing we work on one-on-one to get you out of that continuous cycle of, oh crap, I got to pay the bills. I'm going to take Mrs. Crazy Pants, and now I'm dealing with her for a year, which again goes back to the time ladder. Now I don't have any time because I'm dealing with Mrs. Crazy Pants. I can't focus on the business. I'm out running around instead of doing work like this and building a business that actually thrives instead of just survives. How did they find you? What kind of house did they build? Would they refer you? Did they refer you? What were the red flags? That's what we just talked about. The more detailed you can get on this, the better. Do they have a dog? What were they into jujitsu? The more detail, we're going to find trends in that. That's what's going to help me build that bigger document for you. And you're treating each one like a mini case study. So that's all I've got. I know this was a long-winded video, especially when you're just downloading a PDF, but I wanted to just go into some of the detail, some of why this works. It's not just an exercise. It works in every industry. Home building is no different. And actually, if you do this work, you will quickly rise to a sea of one. In my industry, everyone knows this stuff, right? Or at least they try to implement it once they get further along. Builders are notoriously bad at these things. So the fact that you're watching this video already puts you in a league of your own. If we work together one-on-one, why do people hire coaches? For speed. You'll figure it out. If you're watching this video, it means you care about your business. I believe you'll figure all these things out in the next 10 years. But what if you could figure them out in a year? That's why I have a coach. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you watched this. Again, if you have any questions at all, I just want you to stop being one of 3 bids, and I want you to have a waiting line of prospects. And this is the very first step in getting there. So hope you've enjoyed this. Again, any questions at all, email me, DM me on Instagram at Rodric Lenhart. Check out the website, Builders Time Machine. You might be watching this on there if you're not watching it on YouTube. And until next time, we will see you on the flip side. Cheers.